Hello! So today I actually want to try something different because I've actually always wanted to do this since I started my channel, and that was to have a video where I talk about what I wanted to know before I started doing philosophy as a philosophy student. So today I think I am going to outline some advantages and disadvantages of studying philosophy, and also like what I wish I had known, like what I wish like other teens going to uni thinking of doing philosophy should know. Because when I remember when I was trying to look online for information about what I want to study for university, I was thinking maybe initially I thought I'd do psychology, and I did 2 years of psychology in high school, and then I realized like it's not exactly what I want to do because it had a lot of statistics and a lot of studies, and I was more interested in the theories and understanding humans. And so I don't know, so after I did that in high school I just decided I wanted to do something else, and my other option was English literature. And my teachers often in class used to bring in philosophers, like ideas by philosophers, and I was always like fascinated by them because it just made the class really interesting, even more interesting than it was, because I do love poetry and novels and studying them and analyzing them. And so then, because I had a little bit of exposure, just slightly, in English literature, I decided to go for it at university. But when I started to look online and try to find information about what is philosophy, I couldn't really find anything. Like, I didn't know what it would be like to study philosophy at university. So, on that note, here are some things that... Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is how studying philosophy has an effect that unconditions a lot of beliefs. So, you know, we grow up in a society where we're told about who we are, where we're from, you know, stuff that makes us, builds our identities. And a lot of the things that I experienced during my first and second year was I really rethought, because I went in the question, the reason why I wanted to do philosophy was because my dad had told me to think about the question of who am I? And so yeah, it's very, very stereotypical, but that really drove me and made me even more interested in philosophy. And so I spent 2 years, the first 2 years of my bachelor's, really thinking about that and really just questioning everything. And often when you go into your first class, actually any class, in your first 2 years at least, you often come out with your mind, like your brain fried. Like that's what I used to say often, like my brain is fried, because it's really true. It really makes you think in different ways that you did not think you could think of before. So in that way it really exercises your brain. So if you're gonna do philosophy and you hold like very strong beliefs, just know that philosophy is all about questioning that. Where did that idea come from? How has it been influenced historically? Where is it found in history? How does it play out today? What were the debates like in the past, and how did the debates go on through time, and what is it like now? And what are your opinions? And there is no right answer in philosophy, which can be like a dream for some people and a nightmare for others who are looking for like concrete answers. But in a way, you also don't have to have an answer, as long as you have reasons and an argument to prove your point or state your point, what your argument is. Yeah, so the first thing is you should be aware that a lot of your beliefs will be questioned, if not by others, then yourself. For me, it was more of an internal thing, and it's a process that I really enjoyed, and it was something that I was looking for. That philosophy is actually quite a difficult degree. Like, don't do philosophy if you think that it's gonna be, you know, an easy way to just get a degree, because it really is not. You know, it's quite comparable to like mathematics or science. What makes it difficult is that you have to do a lot of abstract thinking, and that takes practice. It doesn't naturally come to everyone, and also what makes it difficult is having to read very dense books. So just you're dealing with a lot of ideas that have been thought about by thousands of people, thousands of philosophers who had great minds, and so you have to really read their work, understand what they were thinking, how it went about in history, who responded to this philosopher with what argument, and you know, so like it's a lot of knowledge that you have to absorb. So that can make it quite difficult, because at the end it's not just you have to repeat what other philosophers have said, but it's also about forming your own opinions. That comes a lot later as you start like going maybe your second or third and postgraduate studies. Yeah, so don't do philosophy if you're just not knowing what to do and you're just gonna think that it's gonna be easy, because it's really not. It takes a lot of effort and work to get good grades in philosophy, because of the fact that there is no right or wrong answer. There is no like set rule, like there's no like 2 + 2 is 4, you know. There's no guarantee that you're gonna get like a full grade on, like a full mark on it. So it's very like gray, and if you use that to your advantage, I think it can be great. It's a lot of mental exercise. So think of doing philosophy as if you're taking your brain to the gym, because it's gonna build some abs, you know, like work out those brain muscles so that it looks more wrinkly. Yeah. The third thing that I want to say is that don't underestimate the amount of reading you will have to do, and writing, but especially reading. And it's not just reading, right? It's not just reading a novel. It's not just reading like a comic book, okay? Not that I'm not degrading them. I love mangas and comics, but I'm just saying that it's not the same. When you're doing philosophy, you're gonna have to read, as I mentioned before, thousands of philosophers and their work, and they don't often write very clearly, which is very annoying as a reader. Some of the work can be clear if you're doing analytic philosophy, which is more common in America and probably like Australia, New Zealand. The analytic philosophy is often more clear, but if you're doing continental philosophy, so more towards Europe, text can be very abstract and very dense to unpack. It's sort of like reading like dense literature sometimes, because some philosophers don't like to explain things. So sometimes it's very hard to get through a paper. Like, it may take like an hour for you to get through one paper, depending on how fast you read and how quick you understand. But I remember when I initially was doing my bachelor's, I would often take like an hour or so to really unpack like one page, like if it's an important page, like, because you're not just reading, you're thinking. It's thinking and reading. So you have to be very critical as you read. You know, it's not just absorb information, read it, I've got it in my head. It doesn't work that way with philosophy. A lot of the reading list continues, especially in your masters. And so I did a research masters, which is a bit, it's a bit of a level higher than a regular master's. It sort of prepares you to do a PhD. And for the research masters, like I would have to read like books per week. So that's still ahead in the future, but the good news is that as you keep a habit of reading, you really build a habit of like reading a lot, and you quicken up the pace as you go on. So it doesn't take as long. So like when I was doing readings in my research masters, I could get through, you know, books per week. Obviously not reading everything closely in detail, but just to get the gist of what needs to be understood. You know, what the things that you don't know, the things that you do know, things that you want to discuss. Yeah, and that's another good thing, that philosophy classes have a lot of discussion. So like you'll be with people of probably of all ages, from different backgrounds if it's international, and you'll get to like discuss like complex questions and dilemmas, and that's just, for me, that's just really enjoyable. That's what I really enjoy about philosophy, is just having the discussions and having the class together, and getting different ideas from different people because of their background, or you know, their race or gender, having different perspectives. So that's why I really enjoyed the classes. And about writing, well, maybe that's a bit too technical, but like you're being trained to write academically, so the essays that you will have to write won't have to be necessarily creative, which is something that I am a bit annoyed by, because I like to write creatively, and I don't think mainstream philosophy does not have like doesn't allow that, because there are rules and regulations about how you're supposed to write philosophy, which is often very logical. It has to have a good structure, it has to be rational, not too abstract, it has to be concrete. Even though you have to read like very hard and abstract thinkers, you often have to translate that into very simple terms and simple words, so that your writing shows that you've understood what that complex thinker is saying. So that is a skill that you will develop, like condensing dense information into simplistic language. Your job is to write clear and logically, and not write like the philosopher that you're reading. So that's something I still struggle with even when I was doing my master's. A fourth point that I want to talk about is how you get to really engage with cool ideas and do a lot of self-reflection, and you know, think about ethical dilemmas that are relevant to society and are not just abstract, that can be quite concrete and grounded. For like 3 years, if you're doing your bachelor's, for 3 to 4 years, which is quite cool. It will make you into a very deep thinker and very broad thinker. You will have ideas about literally every topic. Any topic. Literally any topic. Because even if you go into philosophy and you take like a course that's, I don't know, like metaphysics or something, it's not like you're only going to study metaphysics. You're going to have to study the foundations of philosophy, which means you're going to have to study logic, epistemology, which is like, what is knowledge? How do we know? It's about studying about, you know, political philosophy, environmental philosophy, animal ethics, and there's just so much, like philosophy of mind and language and cognition and religion, ancient philosophy, Indian philosophy, Eastern philosophy. Like, it's endless. So you're gonna read so much, you're gonna know so much, which is so exciting. You know the world, you're gonna know the world, or maybe just question, like you don't know what the world is and you don't know who you are, which is also valid. But the thing is that because philosophy is so broad, you know, philosophy of science, yeah, of course, because it's so broad, it touches on so many different topics, it's gonna make you a very broad thinker. But as you go on into your postgraduate studies, you will slowly start to zoom in. Like, you're gonna be asked to focus on a specialization. So that will come later. But as a bachelor's, you're gonna get to do everything, so you don't have to worry about like specializing in something. But of course, when you write your own essays and you already know like what angle you want to take, then it's easy to just take that angle and add that perspective into the debate that you want to discuss in your essay. Yeah, so it's not just that you have to study about history and what old philosophy thinkers said in the past, which might not seem relevant, like, you know, weird and wacky theories about atoms and the stars and stuff. Like it's not gonna be that mostly. It's gonna be a lot of thinking about contemporary issues, contemporary debates, and of course you even have thinkers like future thinkers like philosophy of technology and stuff. So it's very relevant, I think, to know philosophy, because it really combines like the past, the present, and the future, like depending on which angle you take, of course. But the point is, it's just very broad, and I think it's a very good thing to study very broadly, to know broadly, to have a good idea about all these ideas that matter. It's very important to do that, because people don't often get to do that freely, especially like in a class. So I think that's a really cool thing about philosophy. Yeah, and so that will make you constantly think, and at least for me, not overthink, but it makes you constantly reflect and think about things. And the things that I would study in class, I would often like take back into like discussions with friends and family. Like obviously family wouldn't appreciate that all the time, but if you have a good like friend or so, you can always have like interesting conversations, even if they're not philosophers. Because a really important thing is to talk to people who are not just philosophers. Like my closest friends when I was studying philosophy were not philosophers, and I thought that was very valuable to my training as a philosopher, because you get different perspectives from different disciplines. Sometimes what happens is in different disciplines you're in a bubble, like you have the science, you have the arts and humanities, and you know, you have the and then you go into the disciplines like philosophy and biology and blah blah blah, and it really puts you in a bubble. And sometimes you're just going through the same ideas and same questions, and sometimes what's needed is going outside the discipline. And so this is called like interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary, going beyond the disciplinary divides. And I think in that way you can be more creative with the way you engage with different topics and debates. But yeah, like have a good friend circle where you can even be comfortable to bring up your ideas about what you're thinking about and what you want to know more about, like I think can be I don't know, it just enriched my conversations with people even more. And it's not like being the annoying philosopher, like, oh, what is life, you know, what's your opinion on life, and do you know who you are? Like it's not about that. But it's often like if you're having a conversation and then they say something, you can sort of dig into that a bit more. You can make your friendship deeper because by asking them deeper questions about what they say or something they share with you, so that you know, the skills that you learn are also enriching their lives and problems that they're dealing with. So I think philosophy comes into play on a very personal level, makes you think, but also can, you know, make others think more about their lives, and you can help them in that way. I don't know what point this is, 5 maybe, but something I do want to mention is I think a lot of people in universities going to academia and stuff will experience this at some point. I did it more so when I started my master's, and it's the imposter syndrome. It's often the feeling of not knowing enough, because you're surrounded by many interesting people who may have different kind of knowledges and have read different kind of books than you have. You will often feel like, at least I did, that I don't know anything. Like I literally don't know anything, and I don't deserve to be here, and stuff, I had those thoughts like, I don't deserve to be here. How did I get my degree? Why am I here? Like, how did I get here? Like, I don't know anything that you know, two people next to me are talking about. And so like self-doubt can sometimes come in academia, because yeah, people around you are just talking about different cool ideas that you have no idea about, and you have not read the books or the papers that they're talking about. And so it's very important, I think, to be aware not to doubt yourself, because I did not know, you know, anything about imposter syndrome until after I experienced it. And so the thing is that you should be aware, not, you know, at least if you catch yourself thinking that you don't know enough and like you don't deserve to be there, just know that there is a reason why you're there. There is a reason why you've been accepted, and just go on with it. Approach knowledge with curiosity, not insecurity, and not self-doubting. Don't try and self-doubt how much you know, because there's always room to grow your knowledge. So it's okay if you don't know what those two are talking about, because you probably know stuff that those, you know, people next to you don't know about, because of the fact that philosophy is so broad that you can't know everything. You just can't know everything. But what you can do is decide what you want to know more about and focus on building your knowledge about that. And that's why you're at university. That's why you have the chance to build that knowledge. So you're not supposed to know things, you know, without having studied it. And so just be aware. I just want to put it as a warning to be aware, not to fall into self-doubt, and just approach your studies with curiosity and openness. And of course, this is something I need to mention now that I'm a philosophy graduate. Am I working at McDonald's? Hahaha. No. Like if you actually read the statistics about like how much humanities graduate students earn, philosophers actually rank higher than a lot of disciplines, which you might be wondering why, and why I'm not working in like McDonald's or, you know, just homeless or something. Well, it's because philosophy really teaches you a lot of skills. Like, you don't realize this as you're studying, but I especially realized this after I finished my degrees. You learn so many skills because you have so much knowledge that you can apply to literally any field. You can literally go into any field. So I would suggest, if you're thinking of doing philosophy, also think about what exactly you want to combine philosophy with. Because philosophy is questioning and reflection. To put it very simply, it's debate. We don't want to get into debate about what is philosophy, right? And how you define philosophy. But think about what you want to combine reflection and critical thinking with. If you can combine it with something practical, like if you're deciding not to do a PhD and become an academic, you need to know, well, you don't need to know, but at least try and think about and experiment with different disciplines and different subjects about what you might be interested in elsewhere. So for example, like if you are interested in like going into politics, like, you know, or something, you might find it useful to just combine your studies with maybe a minor in politics, or like a double degree in philosophy and politics. It's very useful if you combine philosophy with something else, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. But just know that after you finish your philosophy degree and you want to enter the market, you need to sell yourself to a certain, you know, to a certain market, to a certain niche. And if you can sell yourself, your skills that you've learned in that specific market, then of course you'll be fine. Like a lot of philosophers go into like IT, go into like into roles that need a lot of organization. So it's not like you need to know the technical skills, but if you know logical thinking, how to be logical, how to reflect and how to be a deep thinker and listener. A lot of jobs require those skills. And so what you need to think about is not that, oh my god, I have a philosophy degree, I'm not gonna get a job. No, it's about what skills you have. Because honestly, I went through like 2 or 3 months more of looking through jobs, and sometimes I'd call companies to ask them, you know, like, is it okay if I have a philosophy degree? And often, at times, they don't care if you have a philosophy degree. What they care about is what skills you have. And so, as long as you can show that you have those skills, so of course, like as you do your bachelor's or your whatever studies, take on some jobs, part-time jobs if you can, because it will really add to extra skills apart from the skills that you learn in philosophy, which is of course very valuable. I recently got a job as a journalist, and even though it's not my dream job, I'm doing it for now to get new experiences and new skills. And so the point is that it's not hopeless if you do a philosophy. You don't have to like worry too much about finding a job. You have to be smart about how you find a job. It's about knowing what skills you have and showing the companies that you've got those skills that they're looking for. Philosophy gives you a lot of good skills. Keep that in mind. Yeah, and so because you've taken philosophy, you're already on a unconventional path, at least in university, because it's not typically a degree someone does in order to find a job. And obviously university should not be about going there just to find a job. It's about building knowledge, you know, but you know, the times we live in just corrupts the university and turns it into a business where students become products, especially international students. But anyways, I'm going off topic. But because you're already on an unconventional path, you need to know that you're gonna have to take a creative and unconventional path after you finish your studies. So don't let it worry you. Like keep faith in the fact that you're gonna learn a lot and grow as a person as you do your degree and finish it. You're gonna grow and learn a lot, and that's gonna help you find financial security through the means of a job. But just know you're gonna have to be creative and a little bit unconventional. You can't expect to like go out and look for a job as a philosopher, because there is no job as a philosopher unless you're going on deeper into academia, doing your postgraduate studies. But the good thing is that if you do pass your philosophy degree, it means you're very smart. And so that means you can use that smartness and intellect to find a good job. I just want to put it out there because I also had this worry. Like I had no idea exactly what I wanted to do. My initial idea was to go on to do a PhD. Until very recently, I wanted to give it a try, to go out into the real world and not hide in the academic sphere. I just wanted to see what I can do as a philosopher, and I through experience, I'm saying that it is not as hard to find a job if you have a philosophy degree. Obviously do well, learn well. If you're like dedicated and disciplined and you've learned those skills, like you're gonna go far, because you have an advantage over many other disciplines because you've literally studied about everything. So that means you can really take it anywhere. But I must say that I did do a research master's, and that does put me at an advantage in terms of finding a job, because it's just, you know, a level higher than your bachelor's. Keep an open mind, keep an open heart, learn, enjoy your years of studying and learning, not just studying, but learning and talking. Philosophy is especially learned best by talking and having discussions. But don't worry about it. If you want to take some time for yourself to think about questions that have been asked since the beginning of the humankind, then I think you're gonna really enjoy doing philosophy. Really. Like, I really loved doing philosophy. There are many downsides. Maybe I'll make another video about it, about maybe why I'm thinking not of going to academia. A lot of downsides about the academic system, but that's not what this video is about. Yeah, that's it. Good luck if you have chosen to do philosophy after watching this. Yeah. Don't worry. That's all I want to say.